advised. The opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Hello and welcome to Iking Live. I'm your host, Ike Seneres. We have a very fascinating, intriguing, and deep penetrating topic tonight. Our topic is cybercrime law, and for that we have over there Mr. Attorney, Attorney Ivan Uy, former chairman of the Commission on Information and Communications Technology, or CICT for short. Good evening, Ivan. Okay. And we have Drex Lagi. He is, what do I call him? Data forensics expert from Lagi and Associates. But he will explain to you later on what that means, okay? We're not talking of the usual forensics here. We're talking about data forensics, as in data for computer crimes, okay? So that's the keyword now, cybercrime law. Attorney Ivan, please give us a background. What is this and how did this come about?
Well, the Cybercrime Law, or Republic Act 10175, was just signed by the President last month, and it's going to take effect within the week after publication. This is the first time that we'll have a comprehensive set of law that would cover this special area. Our first cybercrime law was not extensive. It only covered 3 areas under the e-commerce law, which is hacking, development and deployment of computer viruses, and software piracy. So under the year 2000 e-commerce law, those were the only crimes covered. Today, with the new cybercrime law, it covers a broad range of crimes, from computer fraud to forgery to, of course, it still includes hacking, denial of service attacks, to the other extreme, which is defamation, and many other crimes punishable under the revised penal code. So that's in summary what the new cybercrime law covers.
I recall when you were still advocating for the passage of the e-commerce law, the expectation at that time was that was supposed to be a mother law, and there were supposed to be daughter laws, and as I understand it, some countries already have granddaughter laws. So is this a daughter law in that context?
Well, if this is a daughter law, then the daughter will be bigger than the mother.
Oh, you mean this has a bigger coverage than
yes,
the
much
e-commerce
wider.
law?
It has a much wider coverage. The e-commerce law only covers those 3. Secondly, it came a decade later. So in the meantime, there were already a lot of developments that has happened on the ICT front. Whether we're talking about the deployment of mobile devices, how the internet has transformed from a tool of research to social media, social networking, and so many others. So it has gone beyond e-commerce, and it has become a transformative tool that affects our daily lives. It's not just commercial. It's no longer just commercial.
Well, you're the lawyer here, Ivan. Are you for it or you against it?
I, I am for it. The law itself has good intentions, and it covers a lot of criminal activities that have gone away scot-free in the past.
All right.
Because of the lack of laws. But I think, as with most laws, the issue would be in the implementation. How well will the law enforcement agencies implement it? How fairly will it be implemented? And there are some debate going on currently because of a particular provision there, which is the libel provision in the legislation, which I think should properly be addressed either through an amendment or maybe either amending the cybercrime law or you amend the revised penal code.
Oh, okay. Let's go back to that later.
Wow. Yes.
Wow, how deep. Let's ask. I'm going to ask Drex the same question.
Right.
Drex here is, well, I introduced him as a data forensics expert, but he is practically an ethical hacker in a way.
Well, I'm more
Emphasis on the ethical.
I'm a professional penetration tester.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're on the white hat.
Yes, I'm one of the good guys.
You're with the good guys. Okay.
One of the good guys. Yeah.
So now answer my question. Are you for it or are you against it?
I believe it's a step in the right direction. However, it has some edges that needs to be
Polished.
removed. Because more than polished, it has to be removed or polished. Some parts should be polished because, all right, enforcement. You mentioned about enforcement. It's going to be very, very hard. Right now, there are practically four government computer forensics laboratories here in the Philippines. 2 are in Mindanao, 1 is here in Camp Crame, and 1 is in NBI, Taft Avenue. There are actual technicians, less than 20. They're growing. They're ramping up their capabilities. But right now, there are approximately 80 million Filipinos who are online. Several million of those Filipinos are on Facebook alone. If all of them started doing libelous things, it would be a very good technical challenge for our law enforcement people.
So, what now, Ivan? The law is just there, waiting for someone to commit something wrong, and
well, the law has to be there. Without the law for the past decade or so, there were a lot of offenders, a lot of people who were doing criminal activity and felt that they were beyond the reach of the laws because there was no law. That's the reason why you had these 300 Chinese and Taiwanese operators, cyber criminals, who came to the Philippines. Why did they come here to operate? Their victims were all in China and Taiwan. There was hardly any victims here in the Philippines. Why did they come here? Because there are cyber laws that would punish them in China and Taiwan, but there was none here in the Philippines.
By death, too.
Right.
where is the server in this case? Those Chinese?
They were all here. They were
so
all
the
here.
server was here.
Yeah. And the operation they were doing were several. They were not just credit card fraud. They were doing what we call SIM bank operations. These are bypass operations, bypassing the telecommunications channels and defrauding both the government as well as our telecommunications operators with hundreds and hundreds
Is
of
that
millions
still
of pesos.
prevalent? I thought that problem died years ago.
No.
That's the termination issue, right?
No, yes, but many years ago the bypass was bypass of the PSTNs.
Okay.
Today they're using SIM to do the bypass, and you're using the SIM to do the bypass. They're basically doing what Skype, what all the other VoIP services are doing, except that they're generating a lot of revenue out of it.
So this is now IP.
IP based.
Unlike before, it's
wasn't
plain
IP
old
based.
telephone.
Right.
But the criminals are still there.
The criminals are still
The
there.
crime is still being
Right.
committed.
And then, of course, you have the cyber sex operators, cyber porn, child pornography, and a lot of fraud going on. I'm sure, you know, many of our viewers have received text messages
Phishing.
telling them that they've won this prize, a lotto or whatever raffle, and for them to claim it, they have to pay a certain processing fee. They would receive emails claiming that, you know, these are there are some African company, African nation whose hidden wealth is somewhere in the Swiss bank accounts, and they're requesting you to help them with accessing
The
those
daughter
funds.
of the Queen of Burkina Faso, something.
Yes.
Okay.
or the last or you know, the later ones are they fish your email address, and you will receive an email from your friend's email address telling you that they're stranded in London.
Yes.
All their passport and everything has been stolen, and they need you to quickly send their money to them via Western Union.
So that's all covered now.
These are all covered now with this law. In the
So-
past, they were not covered.
Okay, so that's the upside.
Right.
Spam is covered.
Spam is covered. Phishing is
Okay.
covered.
So that's the good side, Rex. No, at least it eliminates all the bad guys on that in that way. But what's the downside?
Uh-oh.
Well,
One of the things is that we have a very, very good IT industry here in the Philippines. We have a lot of talented Filipinos, system administrators, network administrators, everybody. There is a provision there that says hacking tools are illegal. That would put a lot of Filipinos like me, auditors included, in jail. Because a lot of the tools
But
that we
you are
use-
not a hacker. You are.
I'm an auditor.
You are an auditor.
But
Right?
the thing is,
But he would still need those tools.
yes,
No,
You
but
would still
from
need
his
those tools.
perspective, those are not hacking tools. Those are investigation tools, correct?
correct. I would do the same like for a like a firearm. You know, in the hands of bad guys, it's very, very bad.
Yes.
But with the law enforcers, the soldiers, the security guards, it's a weapon for protection.
can your tools not be licensed? Just like firearm.
Oh my gosh, unlike firearms, you know.
No,
they
but
have-
wait a minute. You have a licensed software.
no, I write my own software.
Oh, okay.
See, that's the thing. I make my own. So
Oh, sure. You're the proprietor. right?
There is this thing called open source.
Don't you register that with the
No.
Copyright Office?
No. We have this
Okay.
mentality called open source, where if you build something and it's nice, we want to share it with the world, share the love. It's called open source.
Okay.
Now, the analogy with the firearms stops from there on. Because unlike the manufacturing of firearms, you know, you have a definite process, the designs are the same, you churn out thousands and thousands of them, you know, at a given time. With software, you don't.
No, but a criminal with a gun hides under darkness. You don't. You announce to everyone, "Hey, I'm a penetration expert."
Actually, no. Because there are times when we're contracted by banks.
Mm-hmm.
Only the top management, only the people who sign our contracts are the ones who know that there is a security test going on.
Okay.
The system administrators, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know because we don't want to give them a false sense. We don't want to a false heightened or increase of security.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to act normally when we do the testing, because when we make a report, we make a realistic assessment of what their situation is.
So you are now vulnerable because you possess some of those tools.
Legally, yes. Yes, a lot of us. That would put most of the IT industry, most of the programmers, most of the people in the, you know, who maintain software in banks, who maintain software like stuff that you run around your office, the one in offices.
Analytical tools.
Yes. See, those tools.
But it's a very thin line, Ivan. Intrusion tools,
yes.
analytical tools, very thin line. So,
Yes.
Who's-
For example, one best example I have. Do you browse the internet?
of course I do.
Okay, what do you use? Chrome or Firefox? Or
Whatever
Internet
browser is there.
You know a good penetration tester can do hacks against banks just using a browser?
Tell
Only
me the
a
browser.
Only the browser. As long as you're patient in typing and you know exactly what commands to pipe through, you can do a lot.
Well, that's the same thing with dial-ups before. If you know DOS, you can penetrate
So
the
that's
system.
the thing.
Right?
Are you now a hacker as well?
No, I
Are
don't
you
know.
in possession of a hacking tool?
I have the capability to infiltrate or to
Penetrate.
penetrate.
Yeah. And then another thing, right? So you're using a browser. We can only use a browser. There's this thing called prima facie evidence. So you have a browser, and we suspect on the logs of the web server that this browser was used to vandalize this web page. And it points to you. There's prima facie evidence. That could be.
Maybe you don't have to complicate it. Anyone who knows DOS can get to the CPRAM.
Well, actually,
and the command line, right?
Believe me, you can do a lot of things just with a web browser. Just like an assassin can do with a 9mm pistol, you can do a lot already with just a web browser. You can do a bank transfer.
Comment, reaction, Mr. Chairman.
Well, yes, that's where the IRR will have to come in. The
So
law,
is there an IRR already?
no, they have to write it.
Oh,
Yes.
so there's still hope for you to
Well,
refine the IRR.
well,
Rex.
yes, I really am praying that the powers that be would be imbued with Solomon's wisdom in writing the IRR.
Mhm.
How difficult would it be?
I think there is a realization that somehow we did this too fast, and there may be a need for some caution.
Too fast?
Not too fast. I mean, that law has been, that legislation has been a pending bill for how many Congresses?
I
Three?
don't know.
Three Congresses.
I've expressed my opinion about it already back in 2010 of October, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of the same.
It, you see, the law was designed to hit a moving target.
Mm-hmm.
As the methodologies of the cyber criminals continue to morph and evolve, the law will have to catch up, to play catch up. So now that it's there are still many undeveloped modes of committing cybercrime, which has not probably been anticipated no, by the law. So what the law tried to do is it tried to see it from a macro point of view, and mainly it did not even really define the elements, which is traditional. In normally when you define a crime, you define the elements of the crime. Here you did not. You just mentioned it and made a general definition of what that crime is without itemizing the elements. And why is this? I believe that our legislators hope that the experts can sit down and in drafting the implementing rules and regulations can come up with more details on all of these.
But the IRR is only a derivative of the law.
Yes, that's why the law itself, when it makes a description of the crime, makes it as general, couched in a general sense, so that there will be leeway in the implementing rules.
Okay, but let's
There are
backtrack.
dangers. There are dangers to that because
Okay, let's backtrack a little. From what I remember, the internet is a network of networks, number one. Number two, nobody owns the internet, okay? Except there's a governing body, ICON, is it?
Right.
For numbers.
For numbers.
Yeah,
Okay.
only for numbers.
Okay? Domain administration, etc., etc., but not regulation, not policing,
It's
okay?
a collection of fiefdoms.
Okay? So, theoretically, there is supposed to be no censorship at all in the internet. At least that's the way it was when it was conceived until now.
And it should be still.
Is that
ideally.
still, in the context of the Philippines, is that still the case?
In the context of the Philippines, yes. Except that, you see, when the internet was conceived, it was purely designed for academic purposes. The university started it, and it was used as a mode for communicating and for exchanging ideas. Thereafter, they saw that it would have a very good alternate network in case there was a nuclear Armageddon. In case all the regular communications channels were knocked out because of nuclear war, it was designed to be an alternate channel.
Theoretically, you can never knock out the internet.
Right.
Fully.
Right.
Theoretically,
right.
correct.
Right. That's precisely how it was designed. So it was designed to be so robust that regardless of how you try to plug it, it will find it
It
some
will survive somewhere.
Right.
Yes.
It will survive somewhere through some other mode. Now, as this thing became public and became commercialized, it has transformed itself. It has now become a ubiquitous tool for the general public to utilize, to do their networking, to do their communications, to do their calendaring, to do their research, and so many other myriad applications that's on there. Now, as this grew and people found new ways of using it and maximizing it, the criminals also exploited those same utilization. And they found new ways of committing crime using these same tools.
They're very innovative.
So now, you have a situation where what's happening in the past in the cyber arena, in the virtual world, which had no relation to the physical world, starts affecting the physical world when these criminals operate on the cyber arena, and yet they actually steal money from people.
From real people.
From
real
real
money
people.
from real people.
Right.
Okay.
And now you have real people complaining that their information was stolen, their finances were hacked, not by pointing a gun at them and getting their money, but that their account was just suddenly pulled out and they're all now zeros. So this interaction between the virtual world and the physical world has started to create many points of friction, points of conflict.
Good.
And because of this, the governments now have started thinking, teka muna, we have to start coming in now and start to somehow regulate this. Because in the past, www did not only stand for World Wide Web, it stood for Wild Wild West. Unregulated.
Okay.
But now governments are saying, our citizens are complaining that they are victims of this and victims of that. So we should come in now to protect the rights of our citizens and somehow impose certain things on the cyber world which we feel can protect our
So,
citizens.
Ivan, you could say that this law was passed in good faith.
Of course, it's passed in good
That
faith.
it was it's for the interest of the public in general.
It's for the protection of the general public.
But Drex, however, you're saying that there might have been some overreaction in putting in some provisions,
Well,
and it has in a way defeated the purpose because it has shackled some of our rights.
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
well, for me, I'm an old-fashioned internet geek. I'm all for the
By his own admission.
I'm all for the freedom of expression in the internet. I'm all for the freedom of information all over the internet. And besides, you can't really regulate it. Look at what happened to Syria, Egypt, Iraq, Iran. They try to plug it. They have special forces going all over the place. They're trying to hack into Facebook. Even China has been trying to hack into Google, to Gmail, to learn more about their dissidents. They can't.
Well,
and they have far better resources than we do. I mean, I think we need to we need to step back and reassess the situation and do what's practical.
so you need to rethink and maybe revise and maybe tone it down a little bit. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
take out the libel part.
Okay.
That's
When we come back, we'll talk about that, and maybe we can open up with porn filtering.
oh, I like that
Has
topic.
anybody ever done that, and is it really possible? Take it away, baby. Okay, welcome back to Iking Live. I'm your host, Ike Seneres. Our guests tonight are Mr. Drex Lagi and Attorney Ivan Uy. Ivan was formerly chairman of CICT, that's the Commission on ICT, and Drex here is a professional, what do you call it, intrusion expert. Okay, maybe I could claim that too, but anyway.
He prefers to use penetration than intrusion.
Okay. Well, penetration expert. So, when we left off, we were talking about, I wanted to use porn filtering as an example.
Oh, yeah.
Because as Ivan said, this is a moving target. Now, if you're trying to filter several thousands of porn sites that keeps changing all the time, and you just have one, filtering mechanism, could anyone possibly do it? Has anyone done it?
Yes.
Even,
yes.
have you done it? Has anyone done
Well,
it?
okay, here's how normally it's done.
Mm-hmm.
You get a bunch of people, adults, mind you,
Okay.
make them just go over the internet.
And report the sites.
No, not report. Collect the websites. And then sell that bunch of lists to virus software vendors. Say, hey, here's my database of porn. Come back to me next week. I'll have more for you.
Okay.
That's the most basic thing. Other ways and means of doing porn filtering is that you have a software that will scan each picture, each image, each video.
But, Drex, new domains come up all the time by the minute, by the second.
Correct. That's why those porn filter software vendors will always be having an income because they will never. It's like virus.
They have to keep on
They have-
updating.
yeah, there are BPOs. There are can I say call centers
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to surfing porn all day, all night
To keep track.
to keep track of websites that make porn.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then again, there's another one. Use software filtering. You have software that will scan a person's image
Mhm.
and then look at the skin tone. If more than 60% of the skin is shown per body, then that
It's
may
like
be
recognition
classified.
software.
No, that kind of recognition software, but it only looks for skin tone.
Okay.
Yeah.
You won't be able to access Victoria's Secret anymore.
I don't know.
So theoretically, Drex,
It's not the point. It's a
theoretically,
legitimate business.
theoretically,
More than 60% is exposed.
I don't want to make suggestions.
Oh
but
yeah, you're right. You're right.
theoretically, if the government says, okay, no more porn for the whole country,
You know who's going to bear
doable? Doable?
You know who's going to bear the brunt?
Who will?
The ISPs.
Explain that. Explain.
Okay, there's this part in the Cybercrime Prevention Law that they will
Mhm.
you're tracking destination addresses, source addresses, time, date, all of that.
Mhm.
It may technically not be in violation of a person's privacy
Mm-hmm.
because that's why we have the Data Privacy Act law
Mm-hmm.
because you're just tracking computers.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe the way I read it is that the one who will bear the brunt of buying the software, enforcing the software, having firewalls that block that would be the core routers of the internet here in the Philippines. That would be PLDT, that would be Globe, that would be Buy-and-Tel. They would bear the brunt of the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Because as government will say, hey, why are you filtering pornographic pictures? We're going to
Okay.
fine you.
Okay,
We're
so
gonna put
going
you to
back to
jail.
the issue now, Ivan, how do you do that? How do you monitor sites coming out of the Philippines? You're talking
In
about
or out?
You're talking about Philippine registered domains, right?
Right. Well, Philippine registered domains, that would be easy because it's all originating here. But in and out, in order to filter those, you need the route. You need certain software that would be installed on the routers to basically identify the packets of information that's running
routers
there.
where? At the ISP level?
Anywhere.
At any level. Now, as Drex has mentioned, who's going to bear the costs for that? It's going to be expensive. And for the telcos, I mean, they're not a regulatory agency. Why would they invest, hundreds of millions of pesos to do this for what? Unless they want to put it in their CSR.
So if it's not doable, why are you worried about it?
It would make our government people look bad.
That's all?
I mean, come on. I'm one of the good guys, I said, right? I mean, you have to have a law that people will obey, that people would respect. If you have a toothless law, if you can't enforce a law, how would you expect citizens to
Drex, I hate to tell
that?
you this, but we have anti-littering laws. We have jaywalking laws.
We have traffic laws.
We have traffic laws, by the way.
All right, you got me. But the thing is, the impact.
That's a good one, Ivan.
Ouch. But the thing is, the impact. I mean, unlike the traffic laws, the IT industry is heavily effective. Our country's economy depends a lot on ICT. So we need to be practical about it. We need to be realistic about it. And also, I believe in the freedom of the internet. Laissez-faire.
Zero censorship.
Yes, because that's how the internet grew up in the first place. Nobody regulated it. It grew. It expanded.
Is that still doable, Ivan?
Not at this age anymore. Governments are stepping in.
Yes.
And you see more and more of it happening all over the world. Why? Criminal groups are moving into the internet. Whether you're talking about terrorists, and we're not talking just cyber terrorists, regular terrorists, to organized crime. They're moving into the web, using the web as their platform to make better their criminal activities. And governments are not going to allow that. So different governments now are coming together and seeing that with all this activity going on there, they are going to step in and start.
Okay, there you go, Drex. What Attorney Uy is saying is we might have to lose some of our freedoms in exchange for our security. Comment.
No. For me, I would rather lose my security than my freedom. I forgot who that famous person said that, but I'm all for it. Now, okay, with regards to the problems with the internet, I deal with that every day. I've been doing that since 2005. Actually, even before that. My experience says that you don't want to stifle the progress that the internet gives us, right? Brings through the internet. What I want to see happen is to prosecute the bad guys. Do not regulate the internet. I mean, you can monitor it, you can use it to do your detective work, but in the end, go after the bad guys. Don't sweep things under the rug. If you're a corporation, don't sweep things under the rug and then claim insurance. Go after the bad guys. Make them pay. Take them out each one by one. If the government can take them out, have the people do crowdsourcing. Have the people rally against the bad guys.
Isn't that what the government could do also in the real world?
Yes,
in the
but
brick and mortar world?
Regulating the internet is different from monitoring and having accessible tools to do your detective work. It's different.
So, I get the impression that you're only worried about the possible psychological effect, social effect, because there will be no tools to implement this anyway, in reality.
No, there
tools
are
and devices.
There are a lot of tools.
Is the government equipped with those tools?
And besides, you only have 50 million pesos. to implement
So what's
the
your
cybercrime
worry?
law.
What's your worry?
Worry?
Yeah.
Let's go after the source. Let's prosecute the bad guys. People who commit cyber porn, especially anti-child porn, screw you. We hope to go after you. You know, do that. But to say that you want to, okay, another thing, if you want to, let's say, back to libel, because it's the most famous one, right? There are a lot of things. Currently, the Muntinlupa, believe it, is overcrowded. Then you want to put more people in there because of libel?
I'll ask Ivan to answer that. Ivan.
Well, you have to understand how libel originated. You see, libel was a medieval law created in England during the Dark Ages, and it was it was a formulated tool by the monarchy in order to suppress dissent. What happened was when this was created, and the monarchy created what you call the star chambers. These are the courts that are the law enforcers, the prosecutor, the judge, the jury, and the executioner, all in one body called the star chamber. It was presided by the king, or by the monarch, and by his cronies.
Okay.
And what they would do now is they created this law called libel, that anybody who would say anything negative against any member of the monarchy is guilty of the crime of libel.
Okay.
And they drag him over to this star chamber where he is silenced.
That's the end of him.
So libel has always been a tool. In the past, it was created in order to suppress dissent or anybody who would comment against authority. And you would see that historically, who are the ones who are filing the libel cases? These are mostly politicians, government officials, or relatives of government officials, against journalists, against media personalities, against people who express dissent. So, in most jurisdictions now in the world, libel is no longer a criminal offense. It's only a civil offense. So, basically, if somebody libels you, you file a case of civil damages, try to collect something from them. But it's not criminal. I think the Philippines is the only jurisdiction, or one of the very few in the world, that still have criminal libel.
Okay. Thank you. What are you afraid of?
I'm afraid of?
Yes. In the print media, there are publishers, there are editors, and a writer is edited by an editor so that he does not come out with anything libelous, no? I think even columnists are somehow edited because the newspaper can be liable also, no? So there's that formal structure in the print media. But in the internet, there's no such structure. Anyone can post anything, anytime.
Correct.
So again, what's your worry?
My worry is that it can be abused to focus on a specific person. I mean, I would like a law that applies fairly to everybody, not just because a person would be in a disadvantageous position.
Okay, I have a blog. It's hosted in the US. I say something bad against someone. So they want to file a case against me. Where will they file?
Good question. Normally, sir, where do you file libel cases?
That's all still up in the air.
Debatable.
No. With the regular law.
Normally, I think it's the scene of the crime is the location of the server.
Right. Or where any of the elements of the crime occurred.
Correct.
But in this case, the law did not describe what are the elements.
Yeah.
So how do you break it down? But well, if you go through it practically, it will be where it was written, where it's hosted, and where it's publicized. If you're talking about libel, and that can occur in 3 different locations.
Yes.
But I think it will be practical for e-libel to be filed in near the courts where the victim, the complainant, is residing.
Right, but the accused could very well be in a separate jurisdiction. Then it will be an empty victory. You can never reach out and get the guy to be responsible for it.
Take Facebook for instance. They have
Right.
multiple redundant servers.
Correct.
At any
Can
given
pass all over,
yes,
all
at
over the
any
world.
given time, you don't even know where the server is.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so if the scene of the server is the scene of the crime, how do you establish that?
All right. In Facebook, in US courts, what have been they have used as evidence, because one of the challenges that you will hurdle is the attribution. Anybody could write a Facebook account and say it's him when it could not be. You know, in the United States, what they did is that they look at the metadata, those little tags that identify the Facebook composition, the time, the login name, the dates, the email address of the person, and the pictures of the person in there. If that Facebook is really attributed to a particular person, and it's been admitted, the place is actually in California, the headquarters of Facebook.
It's still the location of the server.
Well, it's
or the location of the host, the principal.
Correct. The server could be anywhere. But the thing is, the main application, the main gateway, is in Palo Alto, in Facebook.
Okay.
So they use the address, the office address of Facebook.
So that's the scene of the crime.
Yes.
So how do they sue me? I'm here in Manila.
Good question.
How do they? I don't know. I don't know.
That's still an unanswered question, because countries have not come together to a certain jurisdiction. But soon it will be, because these countries are now coming in, seeing that there are predicaments on extending the long arm of the law over culprits that are outside the jurisdiction or hiding in these havens, and they now want to do either bilateral agreements or multilateral agreements. So you will fall within.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys remember, there were some ideas before about a national cash or local cash and a Philippine exchange. Okay.
Fix.
If that was implemented, it would change the overall scenario.
No.
Because you would have a local cash here.
With a local server.
With a local server.
No.
Right?
No, it won't change anything, because those things are just routers. They just shunt data. They're not the actual scene of the crime. They just make the information go through it.
It will make a kill switch
No, but
very
see,
easy.
if I send a libelous email, and I have a Philippine cash, it need not go out anymore. It will just rotate in the Philippines. So the Philippines could be the scene of the crime.
Still not applicable, because look at your computer when you boot it up. You use your browser, right? It actually caches information
in your hard
computer
drive
as well. So is that the scene of the crime? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. Yes, it is considered the scene of the crime. Because when the person uses that laptop to hack others, that laptop is considered the scene of the crime.
Possible?
Yeah.
Ivan?
Well, a lot of legal theories have been presented on how to determine this jurisdiction and scene of the crime. One of the more innovative ones that I've read up is to completely forget about these old world principles applying to this new technology. I mean, we're trying to fit, a square peg to a round hole
with a hammer.
So, one of the proponents that I've read is that create a completely different set of rules, like create cyber courts that will have jurisdiction in the cyber world.
Forgetting the brick and mortar.
Forget the geographical jurisdiction that are in place because of the physical world, but just create international courts that are called cyber courts, and you do your trial online.
Virtual courts.
Yes, and then you you file your cases just like you send in your Facebook or your tweet. And you probably
You
have a
appear in
complete
court by logging in, huh?
right, and then you file a complaint, and it will be heard, and they can implement their decisions online by either blocking your IP address or do whatever.
That sounds
that can be done.
practical.
That
Actually,
could work. That
that's
could
how
work.
That's how they do it with labor law cases, right?
Uh-huh.
They just submit, they just forward documents,
Mhm.
and then they get something back.
So here you do a paradigm shift. Forget about the current physical rules that have been in place for centuries.
Mhm.
You have a cyber world, then you have a cyber jurisdiction. It's a completely different jurisdiction.
Fascinating, huh? We have a few minutes remaining, so what's your fearless forecast?
It will push through the cybercrime, but how successful it would be depends now crucially on how the IRR will be done.
Okay. Ivan?
Well, my take is it's always a challenge every time we have a law. On one hand, you want to protect the rights of the people. On the other hand, government wants to exercise certain powers which it feels it needs to exercise. So there's always this tug of war. And I think it cannot be mutually exclusive where you only want to do one and not the other. A balance have to be found somewhere where governmental power is not so all-encompassing where they can do anything they want. But at the same time, the rights of the individual should also not be so all free that they trample on other people's rights. I mean, we see a lot of abuse that's happening on the internet. People do cyberbullying. People say anything they want to a lot of people that are so helpless. And somebody has to protect them. So we are afraid of abuse done by government to its citizens. But what about the abuse of the citizens to their fellow citizens? Who's going to protect those people? So I believe a balance should be taken here. It's a delicate balance, and it could shift one way or the other depending on the reality of the situation. It's just like in the United States. It's supposed to be a democracy where all the freedoms are there. And yet, after 9/11, you see a lot of their freedoms being restricted. And
that's what I said earlier. In
the name of
exchange for
security.
your freedom.
Right, in the name of security.
In the name of security.
And now, so as a citizen, what do? If you want better security, you give up more of your freedom. If you want more of your freedom, then you reduce your security. Now, for Drex, it's easy for him to opt for more freedom than security. Why? Because he has the capability of protecting himself. He understands the internet. He understands the tools on how to protect himself. But what about my lola? What about my young children who do not know how to protect themselves? Who will protect them? We all turn to government somehow.
That's really the role of the government, isn't it?
To come in.
I'm saying, let's prosecute the bad guys. We have the laws
Definitely.
now. But, ease back on regulating the internet. Prosecute the bad guys. Let's go after them. Let the internet, be as it is.
It's like you're saying there are enough criminals to run after in the real world. Why bother running after the criminals in the cyber world? Is that what you're saying?
A bit, yes, but still, let's.
No, he wants to go after the criminals in the cyber world
yes.
too.
Okay.
Yes. I don't want to.
He doesn't want that you throw away the baby together with the bathwater.
Exactly. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Whew, that's a good summary there.
Okay.
There you go. He said it.
So, but you need people like you to guide the government planners and policy makers. What happened here? There's a disconnect somewhere. The IT experts were supposed to guide the lawmakers. What happened?
I don't know. I tried to be heard, but I wasn't heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought you said, di ko alam, absent ako eh.
No. 2000, yeah, 2010. I got a copy of that. I expressed my opinion. I even got interviewed by a local journalist. She published it, but I don't know.
Okay.
It
Well,
went to
we've
the
run
ether
out
world.
of time. It's a good topic. Maybe I'll end by saying that I had nothing to do with it because I was not consulted. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Ivan.
Ike.
Okay. Take it away, baby.